Something absolutely crazy is happening in Canadian intelligence right now. It has to do with foreign interference and transnational repression. I'm going to go through the facts and then we're going to do some analysis because it is really disturbing. So, couple definitions to start us off. Foreign interference, pretty self-explanatory. When one country interferes in the activities of another country, transnational repression is a subset of that. It is one way that countries do foreign interference. We don't have a legal definition of it here in Canada, but CSIS has a working definition of it. So I'm going to give you that. Transnational repression is efforts undertaken by a foreign state to intimidate, influence, and or exact reprisal against individuals or groups living outside their borders. Examples include extrajudicial killing, assault, abduction, surveillance, obstruction, and can also include leveraging a targeted individual's relations in a foreign state. So really bad stuff. Transnational repression is really, really bad. Okay, so here's the situation. Back in 2024, the RCMP had a press conference and they said that they could link the Indian government to a series of violent crimes in Canada, such as murder, arson, and extortion. They were backed up by the government, and Canada's relations with India blew apart. We expelled diplomats, they expelled diplomats. And it was a big deal. And it prompted this public inquiry into foreign interference, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. So fast forward to now, the world has changed. Our most reliable trading partner, the United States, is no longer. We need to go out and make new trading partner friends. We decide to go try to trade with India. So one of the things we got to do is we got to repair that relationship a little bit, right? So before the Prime Minister goes to India, somebody from the Privy Council office, which is like, among other things, they're also the bureaucratic arm of the Prime Minister's office, paving the way for the trip, makes the incredibly weird announcement that India is no longer committing any foreign interference or transnational repression in Canada. Well, that clearly isn't true. So a bunch of politicians, spokespeople say, we got to walk that back a little bit, which a lot of them did, including our Secretary of State for Combating Crime, okay? Any suggestion that these threats have been resolved does not reflect the current security reality facing Canada. That's on record. Okay, so you might think at this point it's over. Somebody from PCO misspoke, people address it. CSIS goes on record March 1st in the National Post saying, listen, our threat assessment of the main perpetrators of foreign interference and espionage against Canada has not changed. CSIS is holding the line here. That should have been the end of it, because foreign interference and transnational repression, they are still happening. Absolutely. But here's where it gets crazy. The commissioner of the RCMP gives an interview on CTV March 19th. And I'm going to read you the full quote by him, okay? Because it's really, really important. He says, I'm saying that based on the totality of the files that we have on foreign interference or transnational repression, what we have in our holdings is we have people that are intimidating people, harassing people. But connecting the dots to a foreign entity, regardless of country, we don't have that. Now, I don't know, that's patronizing at best, gaslighting at worst. I can imagine there are many analysts at CSIS who heard that statement and just felt their heads explode, right? Because they do intelligence gathering on, among other things, foreign interference in Canada. And now you have the RCMP saying we have all these examples of harassment. And even though we've put them in our foreign interference file, we can't link them to a foreign entity? Well, what are they doing in your foreign interference file? As Canada's National Observer pointed out in their article, definitionally, that's impossible, because assault or harassment without foreign interference is just assault and harassment. That would be in your crime file. The fact that you've put them in your foreign interference file must mean that you suspect that there's foreign interference there somewhere. So what's really going on in the RCMP? Now, note the commissioner didn't say, listen, we know there's foreign interference happening. We know transnational repression is happening. We just don't have the evidence to prosecute anyone right now. Okay, that's fair. I don't know. I'm not the RCMP. But he didn't say that. What he said was, well, we just can't link it. Well, I'm sure CSIS can link it. So why isn't the RCMP linking it? It kind of feels to me like somebody in the government, and I hate saying stuff like this, but it does feel like somebody in the government has decided that we need to whitewash foreign interference in Canada in order to pursue trade agreements. And I think that's incredibly patronizing because I think that most Canadians can handle the fact that maybe some of our trade agreements are going to be with countries that are a little bit more questionable on certain rules of law than we are. We get that. I mean, there's nuance to these things. I don't think anybody would be surprised by that. So CSIS is still holding the course, and obviously they have to, because let's be clear, foreign interference it's been going on forever. I mean, foreign interference is a huge part of the activities now of nation states. But I mean, you look back when it was monarchies or empires running the world, the foreign interference was all over the place. You have people go into other countries or other places and try to influence what was going on in those places to their benefit. Foreign interference isn't going away. It's a huge part of what CSIS does. In fact, in their 2024 annual report, which is the last one they released, there's a huge section on foreign interference. And they say, in Canada, it is pervasive, sophisticated, and persistent. All levels of government, universities, private sector, civil society groups, ethnic and cultural community groups, they're all being targeted. When something is persistent, sophisticated, and pervasive, it doesn't go away in 18 months. It's disingenuous for the commissioner of the RCMP to be like, well, we can't connect the dots to a foreign entity. Try harder. Or what it says to me really is you're not looking. You've decided to stop looking. So I don't know how that's good for anybody in Canada, because to me, what that's doing is kind of hanging up this sign that says, we're not going to look very hard at foreign interference right now because we think it's going to negatively impact our trade deals. So come in and do whatever you want. And that's bullshit. We can do both. We can have trade deals and still try to, keep a hold of the foreign interference happening in our own country. These things are not mutually exclusive. And furthermore, there was that public inquiry on foreign interference I just referenced. Well, I read the executive summary, which is 123 pages. The whole thing is 7 volumes or something. It's really, really long. But the woman who led that, sorry, I forget her name right now. But she says that one of the conclusions in that public inquiry is that the government is proven to be a poor communicator and insufficiently transparent when it comes to foreign interference. So we're clearly not meeting that benchmark right now, or at least the RCMP isn't, because they're dismissing it. They're saying, well, it doesn't really happen. And you even have now some people in the government saying, well, it's not happening at all, which is quite clearly not true. But more importantly, on the topic of transnational repression, in that inquiry, she says that, and how important it is for the government to meaningfully respond to it. And the reason it's important to meaningfully respond to it is because otherwise the government loses credibility. Transnational repression, as the definition I gave explains, is awful. It's crimes. It's up to murder. This is terrible stuff. And to not meaningfully pursue it in the greater context in which it's occurring, which is sponsored by a foreign entity, which is effectively what the RCMP is saying, they're not looking very hard. So yeah, they'll maybe prosecute the harassment, but in a foreign state situation, the person who's doing the harassment today, they can just be replaced. That person disappears and somebody else comes in. And if the RCMP isn't going to put any effort into connecting it to the bigger foreign component, they're not going to get very far. Right? And that's just going to undermine the credibility of the government, the credibility of the RCMP, and the security of Canada. So what is going on here? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. I have to say, I clearly find it deeply disturbing. I know I'm not the only one. There's a lot, CSIS has been very adamant that foreign interference and transnational repression are here. We had a full public inquiry that demonstrated they are a reality. And for the RCMP commissioner to stand up and say, well, we've looked into it, we just can't really connect any dots to actual foreign entities, that seems incredibly, incredibly bizarre. So tell me your thoughts and comments. I'd love to know. Otherwise, as always, I hope you're managing to have a pretty good day.